I mean, I think I know where this is going to head, and before I say that, I'll just very briefly say what happened to me.
Okay.
I believe, that there's an element in society, not all, but it's getting larger, of really sort of, they're like feral kids, or feral youngsters. They've got no respect. They've got no fear for adults. They've got no respect, no fear for the police. They're just going round completely lawless. Now, I live in a relatively low crime rate area,
right.
But I only last week was driving in my town centre on a relatively quiet road. All of a sudden, 4 kids on bikes, probably about 11 or 12, just came directly in front of me on the road, stopped my car,
right,
and for no reason at all were actually eyeballing me. Now, I'm quite a big guy. I'm an ex-army boxer.
Right.
I wound my window down. I didn't feel intimidated, but I wound my window down. I called one over, in quite aggressive voice, because I know they needed to hear. I said, "Oi, get over here." One of them came over, smirking. I said, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "I could have knocked you over." They just giggled. They saw how big I was, a guy, and they just rolled off.
Just rode off.
They've got no fear.
They don't care. I don't know if you saw that video last week of these kids who cycled through a supermarket in Brighton just for the hell of it, right? Just really scaring people who are out doing their shopping.
Yeah, but this is just one small example now. That's nothing compared to being stabbed with a screwdriver. But what I'm trying to say, it's going to get worse, Mike.
Yeah.
And I can tell you the way it's going to go, mate. We are inevitably, now you mark my words on this, we are inevitably going to become a police state, because this is going to happen more and more and more. It's very uncomfortable to say, but police are going to be given more and more powers.
Yeah.
There is going to be a big surge in police numbers. There's going to have to be 20,000. What Boris Johnson's saying, that's nothing. It's going to be vastly increased, and we are going to become a police state.
Don't you think we're also going to see, Dave, an onset of kind of vigilante justice and people taking the law into their own hands?
Oh, Mike, this is another point. 15 years ago, I could have grabbed one of them by the scruff of the neck and said, "What the heck?" and put some fear in them.
Yeah.
I can't do that now. I'd get arrested.
Right.
The power has been taken completely out of my hands. I can't touch kids. I mean, I wouldn't anyway, but I can't even raise my voice at a kid for the fear of being arrested by the police.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I got into a bit of a barney with some kids a few years ago who were just chucking litter on the floor, right? We were waiting for a bus at a bus stop, and there was a litter bin there. I told them to start putting the litter in the bin. 5 minutes later, they're calling me a paedophile, And you're going, well, what am I supposed to say to that? If somebody walks past us and I'm talking to these group of kids who are all from school, wearing school uniforms, and I'm saying, tidy up after yourselves, you little scroats, and I'm getting called a paedophile. I mean, it's ridiculous. Dave, thanks very much indeed for your call. Let's talk to Carla, who's in Glasgow. Hello, Carla.
Hi, Mike.
How you doing?
I'm loving your show.
Thank you very much.
I totally agree with what the caller there was saying, and I totally agree with what Peter was saying earlier on.
Yeah.
But what no one's mentioned is, for 10 years since Theresa May came into power, the youth services budget has been slashed continually every single year. And youth workers are sometimes the front line. We can get these kids when they're younger. We can steer them down the different roads. But that money has been slashed over 10 years. There's been more and more youth workers leaving because of the caseload and the stress. They've been asked to do... I mean, when I was the youth worker, Area 2 covered miles and miles and miles. And eventually there was about 5 youth workers to cover an area, a massive area. And this is all getting slashed now, and we're not getting these young people when they're like 10, 9, 10, 11. This is the time to get these young people before they turn into something else.
You're talking a lot of sense here, Carla. You're talking about youth services like actual, kind of integration with the social services and people keeping an eye on these kids rather than just because I'm interested in what you think about this, but I'm not one of those people that thinks youth clubs as such are necessarily any good, are they?
Well, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
A quick example. We had a young fella who was wild.
Yeah.
He was wild. And he used to show up at the youth club every week, but he was always getting barred.
Right.
I heard he was a really good footballer, so I spoke to the manager of Motherwell Football Club and got him a trial.
Right.
He ended up playing for Motherwell, turned his whole life around. That is an example of where a youth worker can spot something. and a 10, 11, 12-year-old and say that boy needs to direct his energy before he gets because I'm sure he would have got to the stage where, you know, he'd be running riot and the police would be chasing him.
Of course. That's great. You must be really grateful. So you know what you should do now, Carly? You should call Celtic up because they're looking for a couple of decent scouts after they got knocked out of the European Cup.
I'm glad to be able to get this off my chest, Mike, because I do support a lot of charities and I go to all my local charity shops, and all the workers in there are volunteers.
Yes.
And when I hear people say that you need to pay good money to attract the cream of... I get very annoyed about that, because what are we therefore saying about the volunteer workers in these shops? These top dogs wouldn't be where they are without the people beneath them. And the other thing is a lot of these charities get very privileged rights when they are in the town centres. They don't need to pay the same rates or taxes. So I think, however much I love to give to charity, I have become quite cynical of late.
Yes, I think that's true, Mary. I think you make a very good point. Mary says that, you know, all the people that work for free, that volunteer in the charitable sector, that's what charitable sector working is supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be about coining in about £500,000 a year and walking around going how virtuous you are. I don't think that's right at all. Let's talk to Paul, who's in Poole. Hello, Paul.
How you doing, Mike? You all right, mate?
Yeah, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'll echo what the last lady said, to be honest with you. I live in Poole, the headquarters of the RNLI. Now, I've got many friends that work within that organisation, and they're very well rewarded for the services they provide. And I haven't got a problem with that at all. You know, it's a great service to the country, and I don't know many other countries that's got something like what the RNLI provides.
Yes.
The problem I have got, the guys on the workface, the guys that get bleeped at 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, that have all got full-time jobs, are volunteers, don't get paid one single penny for it, and they're putting their life on the line every 2 minutes, yet everybody else within the organisation receives a fair penny.
Yeah, that's exceptionally unfair, isn't it? Because apart from anything else, even if they weren't putting their lives on the line, this is what I was trying to say to our guest earlier who didn't seem to get it. You know, it's not right to go into charities to take advantage of those who are doing it for nothing, to coin in £500,000 a year.
Absolutely, mate. And again, obviously, it all seems to be the people that, not just for the RNLI, obviously that's a huge organisation, but I'll give you another perfect example, Help for Heroes. Help for Heroes, I'm ex-military myself, I've supported Help for Heroes, I've rattled the tins. There's been many stories about Help for Heroes, i.e., for instance, birthday cakes that have been put in Asda, Tesco's, with Help for Heroes on, where not a single penny has actually gone to the guys that actually need the money, and it's just gone to the organisation.
Yeah. That's shocking. Absolutely shocking. It's a racket. Paul, thanks very much for your call. My problem with this charity situation is that so many more people are now working in charities. I mean, you meet people all the time and you say to them, what do you do? Oh, I work for such and such a charity. They're all making pretty good money. It's now become a business. It's now become somewhere that you can get a job. It's now become a point of contact for many people coming out of universities that end up going to work for a charity in some big organisation that collects bucket loads of money, millions and millions of pounds a year, and spends an awful lot of it just hiring people and paying for things that they want to do, and the money never gets to where it's meant to go. And I think it gives the wrong signal. And from those last two calls, from Paul in Poole and Mary in Birmingham, you can see how angry people get about the fact that, you know, there are people volunteering. Imagine the RNLI, people volunteering, putting their lives at risk, going to save other people's lives, and they get nothing, whereas the guy that runs the thing is probably making upwards of several £100,000. I think that's entirely wrong, and I don't think we should be doing it and supporting it. 0344 499 1000.
We need to move forward, and one of the things we need to do is not just the numbers of police, it's just how we police. The lack of stop and search. You know, from 2015, when the numbers were reduced because of Theresa May's new intelligence-led policing, knife crime has obviously gone up across the country, but in fact, all crime's gone up across the country. If you look at the figures, if they're releasing, we see like criminal damage, violence, murders, even road deaths gone out. So these tinkering, what Boris has done is only tinkering at the edges. He's only applying one minor section of stop and search. We need to amend the whole lot and refer it back to what we had before, which was random stop and search. With the use of now, we've got body cams to use.
Is the problem here not so much about the stop and search and about the whole thing about people who cannot, in fact, in any way be intimidated by the police and will just do whatever they like? We're hearing about this terrible story in Berkshire, but, you know, we're also hearing before that lots of instances of individual police officers being attacked. Nobody seems to be worried about the consequences of their acts.
Oh, exactly. I mean, because they don't fear us. Don't forget, they've had 10 years. Basically, what's happened in the last 10 years, the criminals had free reign to do what they want, when they want, on the streets, and there's no one to stop them. One, because there wasn't enough police, and two, we weren't allowed to touch them. Theresa May said, if you touch these guys with guns and knives, you're racist, so therefore you're not allowed to do so. So you think about it, if you give criminals the free reign to do what they want, of course they're going to be invincible. Of course they're going to get arrogant. They've had that opportunity to do it all the time, and now we need to restore law and order and take back the streets from the criminals. And it's going to be difficult. 20,000 is not going to be enough, because that was what we had in 2010 when the effects first started. Compared to the crime rate then to what it is today, you're going to need at least, I dread to think how many more. But like I said, the other thing is stop and search. And this other thing is that 2/3 of what we do is non-crime related. We have to deal with people with the mental health issues. We have to deal with people who are drunk, people people who've got drug abuse. We need to build up those services so we can concentrate on what we're good at and what we get paid to do, which is to police. Isn't that what we want to do? Same as teachers want to teach. We just want to deal with people who the criminals, and I don't want to deal. My colleagues don't want to deal with some of the mental health issues.
No, of course
I'm not trained to do it.
But also, you don't want to be arresting people who then don't, in fact, get punished or don't get charged and who don't get sent to jail for quite serious offences, which also is apparently something which is now happening more and more. And we've hit a new low in terms of people who have committed crimes being punished.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The whole criminal justice system is affected. I mean, Judge Levinson, if you might know, retired like 2 weeks ago, the senior High Court judge, and he made a comment saying that, look, criminals are getting away with our justice because of the cuts in the criminal justice system. So we need to get more prisons, the probation service needs to be restored. We need basically, if we had a time machine, Mike, we could go back 2010 and what it is. We haven't got one of those. So we need to discard everything that Theresa May started. Police and crime commissioners. Do you know there's more bureaucrats, civil servants than our cops? When you put the Home Office and the College of Police and all these other bureaucratic departments together, there's more. We could have every cop have his own civil servant, making sure he does the job right. So we just need to concentrate. Let the police do policing. We don't want to deal with people with mental health. Give us the powers to do it. Give us the numbers to do it. Build the prisons. When they've gone into prison, give the probation service to deal with it. And it will take time, and a lot of money, a lot of effort. But don't forget, we've had nearly a whole generation of criminals allowed to get away with it. It's going to take generations to restore that back in order.
And it's absolutely a great manifesto, Colin. I wish you could send that down to the Home Office now and just say, get this done, because it's far more important than climate change, any kind of climate emergency, far more important than anything else that we are currently doing. Because if it's not safe to walk down the street in your own neighbourhood, if it's not safe to get into your home and expect not to have to be attacked by people coming in from outside, then for some reason, something has gone very badly wrong.
Yeah, my daughter, she's the last of her group to get married, I believe, and over the years she's complained bitterly about having to go to Budapest for a hen party and then go off to the wedding in some far-flung resort. And she's doing it herself next week.
Right.
And she's doing it because it's a package. Yeah. And she's doing it next week, and we've paid for it because, as she said at the time, it's a nice lump sum. It's just a one-off X amount, and that's quite cheap compared to some weddings in this country.
Yes.
So we said, that is cheap. I admit, 10 grand, whatever, it's split between us, it's grand. However, as I've pointed out to her and others, it's not so cheap when everyone's got to pay for flights, for hotels, etc., and the meals out there. Me and my wife, it's an additional 2,000.
Right.
Bridesmaids looking at the same because they've had to get villas to spend a week there that's into a holiday.
Right.
But it's been spread out over a 2 or 3 day period, so it's working out expensive for everybody else.
Well, it's great news if you're a Portuguese tourist board, by the sounds of it. I mean, it's like a sort of one-man. It's like a one-man sort of industry you're taking over there.
If you totted it all up between it, it's just as dear as a wedding in this country.
Yeah, I bet.
Except it's in foreign climes, and that's it. But I'm not disappointed, but I was surprised that my daughter, who spent 3 or 4 years complaining about all her friends getting married abroad and how much it cost her in taking time off work and how much it cost her in fares, and then she goes and does it herself.
Well, maybe that's the best kind of revenge, I suppose, isn't it? You make them have to come to yours as well, so that you're all out of pocket. I suppose that there is a certain synergy to that. But listen, Gerard, sorry to have outed you there, but I'm sure your daughter will be more than happy if you to walk her down the aisle, despite that you've embarrassed her on national radio. It's not a problem at all. Well, I mean, you know, the absolute and utter arrogance of a man like Jeremy Corbyn, who thinks that the best way to get into Downing Street is just to suggest we put him there.
Yeah, marvellous, isn't it?
Yeah.
And ultimately, you know, we've had 2 years of not agreeing on anything. It's great for Remain, isn't it? They lost the vote, and now they want a party of national unity, which basically is a party of Remain, isn't it?
Well, yeah, which is not actually a party
How about they just implement the vote?
Yeah, well, exactly, because it's national unity of losers, isn't it?
I mean, I think it's just frightening. The thing I can't understand is how the likes of Grieve and Bowles and Spellman, blah, 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 the other Mickey Mouse MPs, how are they still part of the Conservative Party?
I know. It beggars belief, doesn't it? I mean, I can only assume that the Conservatives don't want to kick them out because they would then actually lose their majority altogether. I presume there's some kind of self-interest going on.
Yeah, by the sounds of it. I mean, the other thing, obviously, Dr. Sarah. Can you just imagine being treated by her?
No, thanks.
She'll agree to something, and then she'll put you on the operating table and she'll remove everything. I mean, it's just madness. I mean, I can't understand. You get elected as a Conservative MP, you sign up to say that if people cross parties and leave, then there should be a by-election, but she's got the arrogance to turn around and say, actually, I'm not going to do that because that's going to increase the Conservatives' majority. I think, joking aside though, Mike, this is really scary territory now because democracy, which is hanging by a thread, if this goes ahead, it's completely... We might as well be part of the Putin brigade in Russia.
Well, as I said earlier, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised to see somebody, sailing down Whitehall in a tank, deciding to take over Downing Street. You know, Ed Davey, perhaps, the most unlikely man to lead anything. But, you might as well have that going on because it's literally a bloodless coup if they get in.
I just don't understand how they can do it, Michael. I just don't understand. I mean, Dominic Grieve, he's... Obviously, he appears to be, from his CV, quite an intelligent man.
Former Attorney General?
What's he going to do? Yeah, former Attorney General, going to bring down the very party that elected him. The arrogance of them.
I know. It's quite shocking. You're absolutely right, Vernon. Thanks for your call. People are absolutely apoplectic about this. The only reason I think people are getting less worked up about it than they are is because it seems to me to be entirely a sort of a media-led plot to try and stop no-deal Brexit. And I don't think anyone actually wants that to happen, in my view. You may have a problem with that, but if you're one of those FBPE types, you don't want to leave the European Union at all. It's not about a no-deal Brexit. You're just going to try and do everything you can to stop it happening. Let's talk to Ava, who's in Taunton. Hello, Ava.
Hello, Mike.
How are you?
I'm really happy, always happy.
Good, excellent. What would you like to tell us?
I think that there is an establishment agenda to break down society,
Really?
and there has been for 20 years.
Blimey.
They want to make us so frightened and so, so much crime about that we want more police surveillance, more CCTV, and less freedom.
But it doesn't seem to be working, though, does it? Because we've got more crime, that's right, but we've got more CCTV, so how does that happen?
Well, that's a slippery slope, isn't it? I really believe that common purpose is an issue. There's an organisation called Common Purpose that infiltrate every organisation from the top down, and they...
And who do you think runs Common Purpose?
It was a woman who used to work for the BBC.
Oh, yeah?
And
who
you
was
can
that?
look it all up. I can't think of her name now, but it's there, and it's fact.
OK. Well, it might not be a fact, but, I mean, certainly there is a theory about an organisation called Common Purpose. I'm not sure I buy it, but carry on.
Well, are we going to be more accepting of AI, into artificial intelligence, when they bring it in?
I think so.
That's going to be the next thing that's going to... G5 and all that is going to be the next thing that takes away our freedoms.
Well, how is artificial intelligence going to take away your freedom, Ava?
It's going to survey us. It's going to watch us. It's going to know where we're going, know what we're saying. If we go on to alternative media and watch YouTube, they don't like the YouTube we're watching. They demonetize it, shut it down, and stop us talking amongst ourselves.
You said you were happy when you started this call, Ava. Doesn't sound like it.
Well, there's no point not being happy, is there?
I agree. I think optimism is a great thing. I think you'll be fine. I don't think you need to worry too much about it. But interesting points you raise, Ava. Thank you very much for calling in.
Two things to ask you today.
Okay.
But the first one is about wedding. We went to a wedding recently on the outskirts of Essex. It was a marquee wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice. It was when that weather was very bad. It was raining all the time. But luckily, when she come out the church, it actually stopped for the photos and everything. But why I'm calling is, it was a marquee wedding, and you were saying about gifts and everything.
Yes.
The couple have been together for a good while, and they're a lovely couple. They work. But what they did was, they didn't, because they're living they've got a place to live, they wanted money gifts because they're going to have it for their honeymoon when they go away.
Oh, yeah.
So, which was nice. It was a lovely occasion, and also there may be a possibility it's going on television.
Oh, right, okay.
It was for a programme, you know.
So they probably would have paid for it, wouldn't they, if they were doing it that way?
I think they did, yes. But it was it's such a shame with the weather, because if the weather was nice, we could have all gone out walking on the fields and everything, you know.
Right.
It was a hog roast they had, and vegetarian option.
How do you do a vegetarian hog roast, I wonder?
No, they had a vegetarian alternative for people.
Oh, I see, right,
work.
okay, right.
But it was very, very nice, you know, and it was just about the gift situation. We all put in what we could afford, you know, in the money, and it helps out for when they go away.
No, well, that's good. Well, at least it wasn't in some far-flung part of Europe, though.
Oh no. But the other thing is, it's a bit light-hearted to what you're speaking about. You know, I organise charity events, charity talks, that sort of thing. And this is the reason why I've come on here today. We're having a talk on ghosts and that sort of thing, and the money's going towards all the money we make that evening is going to the Clacton Food Bank.
Oh, that's good.
But why I'm on here today is I'm asking, there may be people that have got shops or whatever area they're in, that has CCT, and they may have got something that's a bit unusual, or it's a ghost, that sort of thing. I was wondering if they could contact me through your know, the reception, because it'll make the evening interesting, as well as the people that are coming down. We've got a couple coming down who are ghost investigators from Hertfordshire.
Okay.
And I've just putting it out because they're going to be doing talks and things and demonstration. People can use the demonstration of ghost equipment and that. But I thought also, if there's anyone out there that might like to get in touch with me, if they've got any footage that they might like us to show on the evening.
Well, if anyone gets in touch with us, Susan, we'll make sure we pass it on to you. Thank you very much indeed. Susan there on Holland-on-Sea, talking about weddings and ghosts, in fact. You could probably put the two things together, perhaps. You get married in a ghostly sort of haunted castle or something up in Scotland.